affect your life from Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at ubnradio.com.
The audience is growing. I can hear it rapidly growing. Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Judy of Dr. Judy WTF. And tonight's topic is something that I'm passionate about because it's so significant and it's such a killer, literally, and also a killer of the spirit, a killer on so many levels. And the topic tonight is negative core beliefs, lies that kill. Lies that we buy into and literally shatter our psycho-perception on ourselves, on the world. And I'm going to break it down for everybody so that you can understand just how these core beliefs develop, how they ingrain into the fiber of our being, and then how they rule us. And we're going to have a couple of surprise guests on tonight, and so they can comment and share a little bit about how these core beliefs have taken them down a pathway to hell, basically. And then, of course, this is a call-in show, everybody. So please do call in 323-843-2826. I want to hear from you. I want to hear how your core belief has interfered with you, has limited you, and it is such an important topic that I have been talking about it in the context of it is the universal lie that is the most destructive mental process that I can pinpoint on the planet. And it affects us on a micro basis, and then, of course, it affects us on a macro basis, and it affects us cross-culturally, buying into things like we're not good enough because we're this race or this religion or that religion. So this is not just on an individual basis, but this is infecting the entire planet on a global level. So please, I would love to hear from everybody. And let me just start by saying a little bit about the mind map and the purpose of the mind map in relationship to this topic. And when you have the mind map up there, thank you so much. I'm going to start breaking down how these negative core beliefs enter the fiber of our being and create what I call the psychovirus. And so if you look at the top row of the mind map, you can see wounds of childhood, which there are 5 of. Physical abuse, sexual abuse, verbal emotional abuse, neglect, smothering. So when we are injured in this way by our family of origin, and when the world continues to reinforce these horrible messages, and our caretakers in specific blueprint these messages not only verbally, but through their actions, through their deeds, what happens is as babies, as infants, we are permeable membranes. We soak everything in. We're open vessels for taking in information. And as this information flows into us by our primary caretakers, they're laying down the foundation of our mental health. And so as we allow these pieces of information, verbal, nonverbal, to come into our psyche, we are very, very slowly, in a developmental manner, defining ourselves and defining the world around us. And if you look at panel number 2, you're going to see reactions to these wounds. So imagine if we're neglected, or if we are abused verbally, or if we are sexually abused, or if we are smothered, we are constantly weaving messages about this way of treatment. And the reactions to the wound are varied. They could be anywhere from being fearful, anxious, shutting down, biting back, fighting back, fight, flight. And so at the end of this process of our developmental history, our emotional developmental history, we then encode into panel 3. If you see panel 3, you'll see the word encoding under there. And what we're encoding in there are very, very harmful, negative core beliefs that then become our Achilles heel, that then become a point of activation. And when these core beliefs are set off, bad things happen, like chaos, defenses, and ultimate breakdowns, including homicide, including suicide, meaning we can implode, we can explode, and neither one of those are going to take us to none of those are going to end well at all. And so I'm going to read a little bit about other people's views of negative core beliefs, because my colleagues have similar views to me. I think what's different is the way that I go about treating people insofar as how to dismantle them. And as many of you know, that I go to the cause, which is always our family of origin, and how our blueprint treats us, mother, father. And although cognitive behavioral therapy is a part of mind map therapy, it is not where the therapy starts, because it starts at the cause. And the cause is that unconscious territory that we can't be in touch with because we're infants. We don't know exactly what happened. However, what we do know is when we're getting activated, something is becoming then exaggerated, which I refer to as the what the Freud, because the what the Freud tells us that our reactions are bigger than appropriate for the situation. For example, if I step on somebody's toes and they punch me in the nose, you could see, what the Freud? What was that all about? That's just too big a reaction to what happened. So this is where we can see, along with our symptoms, we could see that something happened at the causal level that wounded us and now leaves us reacting in a bigger than life way, and leaves us encoding and informing ourselves in ways that hurt us and limit us, and in ways that actually end up breaking us down. According to John D. Rich Jr., PhD, he says that before you have the capacity to agree or disagree with some parent's opinion about your intelligence, like you're stupid, you'll never amount to anything, what you do is that what happens is that these opinions that our parents ingrain in us, they seep into our brain. Our brain at young ages is desperate to figure out the world, and we are meaning-making machines. And so because our parents are our source, because we believe them, they are the first source of information, what they say goes. So if daddy says you're stupid, you're stupid. If mom says you're ugly, you're ugly. And they don't even have to say. They could just look at you wrong, or they can treat you neglectfully and say nothing, and then you will be weaving into your negative core belief system messages like, I'm not lovable, I'm not important, I'm not special. So you can get the flavor of how this then starts ingraining, and the mind map system is geared toward identifying these childhood wounds and the reactions, and then identifying and shining the truth light on negative core beliefs so that we can dismantle them. And they are stubborn, they are ingrained, and I want to give you some case studies of examples that I've seen in my practice. I remember one particular case, a gentleman came to see me, and he was most elegant and very intelligent, very learned. He was a judge, beautiful family, children, and you would never believe that lurking behind this elegant, intelligent man was a negative core belief that he felt like he was absolutely worthless and better off dead. So, what the Freud is going on here? Handsome, intelligent, successful, well-paid, gorgeous family. How is it possible that such a wonderful example of a human being, on top of it, kind and funny, how is it that a person like this can be harboring such a deadly core belief that led to his depression, led to his dysfunction, and within it contained the seeds of his destruction in the form of suicidal ideation, which is why he came to see me. So after discovering his panel 1 wounds, we came upon some subtle information, and everyone, I want you to know that it's not always that obvious. It's not always so obvious that someone's hitting you or abusing you. In his case, he was simply an object that his parents were using to help them with their functioning. So in essence, they were not relating to him as a human being. They were relating to him as a human doing. So this poor man felt that if he didn't function properly, if he didn't do enough, if he didn't take out the garbage on time when his wife told him when to do it, when he didn't perform well enough at work, he felt that he was absolutely worthless and deserved to die. So this is how sneaky it is. This is how powerful it is. And even intelligence, high IQ, doesn't necessarily and hardly ever dismantles this negative core belief, which we're going to talk more about how to dismantle it. And for those of you who do not know, my new version of Be the Cause is out. And when you order it, please order the 2018 version. And you can always drop a review at Amazon.com, which I greatly appreciate. And also, for those of you who do not know, my Mind Map video series is out. And the Mind Map video series is a video that I created, and I lecture, conduct, and take people through all the mind map panels 1 through 9. And in this mind map video series, we work very hard on identifying your negative core beliefs, breaking them down, shining the truth light on them, and then reprocessing the feelings so that they don't get stuck in these very psychoviral forms to the point where they limit and destroy. So please do call in. This is a call-in show, 323-843-2826. I want to hear from you, and let's address negative core beliefs, because every day someone is buying into the belief that they are horrible, terrible, unlovable, stupid, worthless, not worthy, incapable. And when this psychovirus buzzes around in the head, and remember, you don't have to have your parents continually saying this, because what happens is you ingest it, and then you digest it, and you manifest it. And this psychovirus, this message, keeps reverberating in your head like a broken record. So whether your parents are alive or dead, around or not around, it sticks there and it destroys. So please do call in, 323-843-2826. And if you're in the chat room, pick up the phone and chat with me. So a little bit more about negative core beliefs and how they limit us. So imagine there was an experiment done with ants in a glass bottle, and a lid was put on this glass bottle with air holes so the ants could breathe. And what happened is these ants would jump to the top of the lid, and then they would hit their bodies against the top of the lid. And what would happen is after a while, they would learn that they can't jump out. Later on, the experimenter took the lid cap off, and guess what happened? The ants did not jump out. They learned, and they were limited by their experience of not being able to go higher than the limit of that lid. And that's how these negative core beliefs work. And unfortunately, we have seen a couple of suicides of very, very famous people in the last week. Anthony Bourdain, which came as a shock to so many people, and Kate Spade came as such a big shock to people. And of course, I wonder what kind of negative core beliefs did these people hold? Because on the surface, they were very creative, very successful, led interesting lives, and we don't know what lurks behind this picture of oftentimes greatness and creativity and perfect life. And so that's why this is the stuff that the unconscious is made of. And sometimes we ourselves don't know what our negative core beliefs are. All we know is that they are limiting us. All we know is that they are creating patterns in our brain that very much mess up our thinking and trip us up and create what I call a self-fulfilling prophecy. And let me elaborate a little bit about that. So let's say that you think that you're dumb. What happens if you think that you're dumb is that you may project on the person right in front of you that you think that they think that you're dumb. And all of a sudden, it creates a human disconnect, because how can you be in the presence of a person that you thinks that you're dumb and feel good about that person or yourself? So can you see how these projections that are created as a result of these negative core beliefs can disconnect human beings? Furthermore, they make the person self-conscious, because if I think you think I'm dumb, then it's going to create a trip in my brain process. I will not be able to think really clearly, because now I'm going to feel that you're judging me. Now I'm going to feel that you already don't like me. And I think we have a call-in, so let's address this. Hi, who is this, please?
Nikki.
Hi, Nikki. How you doing? Where are you calling from?
Good. Omaha, Nebraska.
Oh, very nice to talk to you. Thank you again. So tell me a little bit about, I was speaking about the lies that kill, our negative core beliefs, how they limit us, how they become viral in our brain, and how this operates in your life.
Well, my mom is a borderline narc, and my dad's a covert.
Okay.
So I was just mentally abused, like to not talk and put down about my weight, my appearance.
Mm-hmm.
So growing up, I felt like I could never accomplish anything.
Yes.
Because I always had that negative. But like right as I was in the chat tonight, I separated from an abusive ex about 7 months ago, and I'm dealing with trying to figure out if you had advice on I see it happening to my son.
Yes. And as you, yeah, go ahead.
He was just texting me, being yelled at for looking at the ground at a store and having a dry elbow, and he's constantly being put down and told he's not good enough and he needs to do sports, like he can't be himself. And I went through that, and I don't know how I can stop it.
And who's putting him down? Who's putting him down?
Yes.
Pardon me?
Telling him who he is isn't good enough.
And who's putting him down?
His father.
His father, and I'm assuming that you guys are divorced, separated, yes?
Yes, separated. I left 7 months ago.
Okay.
And it's gotten so much worse now that I'm not able to be there all the time. And I can see my son is broken. I had to heal him from IBS. It's been horrible. And
yeah,
I don't know what else I can do so that he doesn't live what I lived through.
So as his light, as his source, or at least if we look at it from the point of view of you're the other part of this DNA, correct? Uh-huh. And if he only has his father to look to for his self-esteem, and if you don't help him correct his cognition and his feelings about himself, then he'll feel that he's in a double dungeon of darkness, as I like to refer to. Because if he can't turn to your ex and he can't turn to you, and he turns to himself and he's empty because he's a child waiting for the psychological nutrients to flow in from his parents, then checkmate, right? And as we saw, last episode was a very sad episode, a mother calling in because she was was grieving the loss of her 14-year-old who committed suicide because of the mental torture that she went through. So let's talk about what to do. What can you as a mother? First of all, how often do you see your son?
I see him more. I probably have him 80%.
That's
but just
great.
the little time that his dad has him is really, it's doing a lot of damage. I've caught him looking up depression online. Like he's fine when he's with me. He doesn't want to go with his dad, but he's ordered to go with his dad.
Okay.
But when he comes back to me, he's broken all over again. So it's back and forth, back and forth.
And it's so devastating because the father's imprint on a son is very, very significant because this is who he identifies with as a man. And if there's the powerful man seeing him as less than, as weak, as incapable, as incompetent, that's really, really difficult to get out of a child's head. And you said he is how old?
11.
He's 11. Do you have a copy of my book, Be the Cause, Healing Human Disconnect?
No, I don't. I will write it down.
Okay, it's on my website. The website, you can access it, drjudywtf.com, psychologicalhealingcenter.com. And the mind map is very simple to understand, and maybe you can go to the website and show him the mind map and show him what happens when parental messages go in there and take over the brain. It's almost like it hijacks the brain. So I think one of the ways that you can intervene is by psychoeducating your son. He's 11. He can understand this. He can understand that it's not his fault. He can understand that people who treat children like this, there's something off there. So then you can take it upon yourself to help him correct his own thinking, his own self-perception. And I think picture's worth 1,000 words. Show him the mind map and maybe break it down to him in terms of what an 11-year-old can understand. So you can also tell him a little bit about maybe why his father is speaking to him in that manner, and teach him a little bit about projection, because if his father has been wounded, which he probably has, because what healthy parent would treat a child like that, right?
The thing is, unless there's really, I know his dad drinks a lot.
Oh, okay.
But if anything, like his family, I always thought his mother is wonderful. I mean, compared to my parents, they were wonderful, but I feel like they were too spoiled, if that makes sense. Like,
who? Your husband's?
Yeah, my ex. He's incredibly spoiled, always was.
Okay, so the incredibly spoiled brings upon the child who is now an adult a different kind of wounding. So the idea of entitlement, that unless somebody's perfect, they're not good enough. And so you can help your son to understand that these are distortions that we buy into. And I like to give examples. So I might use a couple of examples with your son and say, look, let's say a little girl is left at an orphanage, and she then grows up to think she's not lovable. Is she not lovable? Or what's wrong with this picture? Do you think he would understand that?
Yes, I do. He's actually, I mean, he reads constantly. That's the thing. He loves to read.
Okay.
And that's his thing, reading and drawing, but his dad doesn't think that's what boys should do. So that's the problem. But I know he will understand. I just didn't know if at his age that would be appropriate for me to do.
For sure. I mean, come on, appropriate. Let's read a book on how to identify the cause of negative core beliefs so that you can get out of the double dungeon of darkness versus the lack of appropriateness of these horrible messages. So it's almost funny to hear, would it be appropriate to learn how I got messed up versus hearing messages that mess me up? Do you see what I'm getting at? Okay. So maybe
the age thing, I didn't know if he was, if it would be, it's a tough situation. I just don't want to do the wrong thing for him,
Yes, and you can be that light. You can be that enlightened witness, because an enlightened witness is somebody who stands witness to the crazy. So somebody could stand there and say, oh my God, honey, does that make sense to you that you are incompetent? I mean, look at the source. Unfortunately, your father's drunk. You don't have to put your husband down, but you do have to straighten out his thinking. This source is coming from a sick source. This source is coming from a distorted source. This source is coming from somebody who is in the consciousness of demeaning, devaluing, and destroying you. What do you think, son? Do you think that your father is messaging you healthy information, or maybe destructive information? And help him make those distinctions so that he doesn't personalize it. You can do a lot with him. And why shouldn't he read the book? It's a plethora of information and a pathway to healing. And as you know, I have a mind map video series, which both of you can watch. And then you can dissect his wounds of childhood so that you can help him make it conscious, so that it doesn't ingrain into the fiber of his being, and it doesn't limit him, and it doesn't create his future patterning, i.e., bonding to people who will then further demean, devalue him, and reinforce that he isn't anything much.
Right. Exactly.
Right?
Right, exactly.
Right. So really, really, you can do a lot for your son. And thank God he has a mother who is curious, a mother who's interested in becoming conscious and aware and intervening. And all it really takes is one person to stand there and say, wow, I see what's happening here. And this is misinformation. And you can even explain to him, your son, that when we believe in lies and misinformation, they are deadly and not sustainable, and they are not creating, as I like to put it, life code. They're not creating life code. And if something's not creating life code, then it's based on something that's unhealthy, unsustainable, and based on misinformation.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. And you're always welcome to call in for a free consultation. And even your son can call in. And we have people at the center, even people who work on a sliding scale fee basis, that can break it down for him. By the way, in the Mind Map video series, one of the portions of the Mind Map video series is my grandson, who was just under 5 at the time that I filmed this, and he broke down the mind map. So he understands.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So here's a under 5-year-old, he can understand wounds of childhood and the boo-boos. He can understand panel 3, which he calls, and this is where people don't feel good about themselves. He gets it. And it's just a very streamlined system that I think that children can truly understand, because it's very simplified.
So is that on one of the videos in the mind map?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Very
Thanks.
thoroughly broken down, and something that I'm very passionate about someday getting into the school system. So if there's anybody listening to the show, and if you have power of getting such a psychoeducational tool into the school system, I would be more than honored to teach this to children at any age level, because that's why our children are dying. They're suiciding. They're feeling less than. Their self-esteem is in the toilet. And so they off themselves, or they project it on other people and they gun them down. So we could see how powerful these negative core beliefs are, because they distort and destroy.
Right. I see that, and I see him wanting to make his dad proud. It's starting
by how? How does he want to make
validation? Just there's things I know that he doesn't. His dad even asked me when we separated what he liked to do. He had no idea what his son liked to do. I know what he likes to do.
Okay.
And recently he's been talking about, well, maybe I would like to try baseball, which I have no problem with him trying anything, but I know he really doesn't want to. I know it's being forced on him, and he gets compared to his dad's sister's kids.
Horrible.
So his dad
yeah.
wanted to be like them.
So his dad is, and you can teach him, look, daddy's creating an unsustainable system, and he's giving you the impression that no matter what you do, you're not good enough. So shine the truth light on it. What do you think of that, son? How would you like to treat your children that way? What do you think is going to happen if any child is treated that way, so he doesn't have to feel that he is wrong or damaged? He can understand that it's a system gone wrong, and he's not the problem. The problem is the system gone wrong, specifically the messaging that he's receiving. So by all means, straighten out his thinking.
Okay, and do you have any advice on what I can tell him when he tries to tell his father something and his response is always, I'm the grown-up, so you just have to listen?
Yeah, I do have advice. I mean, he's not going to be able to take my advice because I'm a very blunt person. But the truth of the matter is that he needs to, in his own mind, screen that message and understand that message, the adult, and you could tell him, do you think an adult that is a healthy adult would give such a message to his child? Let him think that through so that he has the capacity to discriminate the messages. This message makes sense. This message doesn't make sense. And to also help him understand that his father's setting up a horrible trap here, that no matter what he does, he's never going to make it because the father will always pull away the trophy. So if the trophy is success, then your son will try to achieve that success, but the trophy will be placed higher and higher and higher and higher until your son breaks. And he will try to work for it like a rat, trying to chase the cheese through the maze, but there's the cheese is always moved. So explain it to him. Show him what's happening so he doesn't go insane.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, and he's free to give a call, and someone will break it down for him so that he could absolutely understand this, because we have to, I call them anti-mommies and anti-daddies. And when our mommies or our daddies are poisoning us, unfortunately, we've got to have antidotes to that.
I think I'll watch the videos with them and then see if he'll call, because that would probably help a lot.
And by all means, write in or call in, and then we can give you links and so on and so forth, and how to get a hold of these videos. Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
You're very welcome. My pleasure. And I think we have another call in.
Hello.
Hi. Who is this, please?
This is Molly.
Hi, Molly. How you doing?
Okay.
Where you calling from?
California.
Nice to talk to you, and welcome to the show. And tell me a little bit about what's going on. WTF is going on in your life, and what inspired you to call in today?
I just figured out that my dad's a narcissist.
Okay, and what makes you think that?
Because I'd always thought myself.
Pardon me? You've always what? You've always what?
Hated myself.
Hated yourself. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So let me tell you my definition of narcissism, because it's easy just to say, he's a narcissist, she's a narcissist, I think this, that, okay. So to me, it's a system gone wrong. And the system is that person, let's say the parent, has a hole in the soul, and that person, instead of giving the supply, the love, the unconditional, and the mirroring and attunement to the child, it's a reversal of the system, and they're using their own children to esteem themselves. They're using their own children to bolster their psychological needs. Does that sound familiar to you?
Yes. It does.
Okay. So it's a system gone wrong. So go ahead and tell me a little bit more about your thoughts, any questions you have.
One thing I wanted to say is I bought your book, and it's 2015.
Okay, that's fine. It's got like 90% of the information. Then I have a little
Okay,
more
cool.
in the 2018 version, just a little bit more.
Okay, good. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. It's been holding me back for a long time. You know, I knew something was wrong.
Okay.
Hello?
Yes, I'm here.
I knew something was wrong. I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know what. And I figured it out that it was narcissist, you know, through the YouTube stations and everything.
Okay.
That he's some kind of narcissist. And what it means is it's not my fault that these feelings aren't my fault.
Right, and that whatever he is messaging you verbally, non-verbally, directly, indirectly, I call it acts of omission, which is what we don't do for our children, and acts of commission, the damaging things that we do to our children. And as you now know, this incorporates into the fiber of our being. I call it the psychovirus. So your parents are always messaging you. So what was the message to you from your father?
Let me think. It was that I was useless.
Useless. I am useless.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, now let's say that went in deep, and let's say that burrowed itself into your brain and now repeats like a broken record, right? So how does it limit you, and what kind of chaos does it cause in your life?
It limits me a lot of ways, I'm self-conscious.
Sure.
It's limited me like 50% of everything, you know?
What do you mean 50% of everything?
I mean, like, I'm like 50% of my life has been like clouded.
Very well put. If you look at panel number 1 on the mind map, then those dark spots, those clouds represent our shadows. And when we are shadowed over by damaging treatment statements, then we cannot become what I call in my book and the video and in the treatment plan, our big I, which is our self-actualized I. And we stay little. We stay as in the form of the little I. So now, because you're useless and you believe that you're useless, you are actually going to look for proof in the world that you're useless. So this cracked lens of perception, which will really distort your view of yourself in the world, then becomes kind of like a proof theorem. I know I'm useless. Of course, my father said that I'm useless, and he's my father. He's bigger than I am. He's my source. So, I see. My friend just told me that I didn't get her the right toy for her birthday, and I picked it out. Oh, I'm useless. My teacher told me that I didn't do a nice drawing. Oh, I'm useless. So it becomes this distorted lens through which we then begin to see the world to prove to ourselves that we're useless. And can you see how this acts as a limiting mechanism through which there's no way to grow, because you're only going to rise to the level of useless. That's it.
Yep. Everything that goes wrong, I'm thinking, oh, you're stupid.
Yep.
You know?
And you know what's so remarkable is your parents don't even have to be there to say it anymore, because that message.
Not at all.
No, the psychovirus has made it in, and it's burrowed itself into your brain, and now it's spinning around, and you're seeing literally. It's as though your eyes on you are you're borrowing your parents' eyes to see yourself. And that's what we have to crack. They crack us up, and what we have to crack and open up and discard are these damaging, distorted beliefs that come from the wounds of childhood. So that's the challenge, is to shine the truth light on it, because lies are not sustainable. If I tell you a lie, then the lie will not be able to really be proven. If I say to you, 1 + 1 is really 3, well, That's a lie, and I think we can prove that. The truth is sustainable. So that's our hope, is that once we get to the truth and deconstruct the lie will basically crumble, kind of like the analogy of the Wicked Witch in the Wizard of Oz. When she was thrown water at, right, she melted. And so when we throw truth, light, consciousness at a lie, it melts down the lie. And that's the work.
Yeah. I stopped seeing him when I was 16 years old. And it didn't matter.
It didn't matter because it was already in there.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I knew something was wrong, and I couldn't put my finger on it for years until just now. You know?
Okay.
And
yes.
I've had therapy, and it didn't work because, you know, it wasn't based on that. I thought I was the problem. So I didn't really open up at all.
Right.
So
and it's rarely ever that we're a problem. We are reactive to our environment, to our blueprint. So when the blueprint is faulty, multi-generationally, then we're at the effect of it. And when we learn to get out of what I call the double dungeon of darkness, the unconscious, the trap, the lies, the misinformation, then we get back in touch with the light, and then we can manifest and grow. Make sense to you?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, so I really appreciate you being on air, and I want to move to a very special guest that's sitting right next to me. And thank you, Molly.
Okay.
Feel free to call me and get some more information about what we do at the Psychological Healing Center. And you can access us through drjudywtf.com or psychologicalhealingcenter.com.
Okay, thank you.
My pleasure. And sitting next to me, we have a very special person who's been my song picker forever. She's been on air with me, Heather Dykes, and she did an episode with me on homelessness and overcoming homelessness. And I'm just so impressed with her. And she's just an amazing, creative, interesting woman. And Heather, thank you so much for coming back on air, because I think that you're a walking example of how these wounds of childhood have ingrained into the fiber of your being. And this beautiful woman has had some misinformation put in her head about how she is this, that, this, and not good. Okay, so Heather, if you don't mind sharing a little bit about your Panel 1 wounds and what you made it to mean about yourself and the world, I think it would be very helpful for people to hear it.
Hello, everybody. I'd just like to say thank you, Dr. Judy, for exposing the truth and the lies, and I just appreciate you very much, and you saved me in more than one way.
It's really an honor.
I've watched the Mind Map video series, and I've read the book. So, I mean, you've given me some tools that I didn't have before, and the world was a lot darker without you, and without the knowledge and actually the compassion that you're showing everybody. And that's what we need, really need to reconnect as human beings. I think we've forgotten how to be human, and you're helping us. So I wanted to start with that by thanking you, and audience and people that are watching. I think that I thank you for caring enough to do something about your own problem, or whatever.
And it's
I'm gonna share.
I just want to say it's so remarkable to I know you as a human being, and I know what a beautiful soul you are, and talented, and so fun and interesting and creative, and yet lurking behind all of this amazing are some pretty dark views of yourself. And just if you could tell those listening how that even got in there.
Well,
and what they are, and then what they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to start when I was younger. My first memory, it's not my first memory, but this one really sticks out. My mom dragging me down the street taking me to my father's place because they got separated when I was about 3. They were divorced. And she was dragging me down the street, and she was cussing.
Your mom.
My biological mother. Mm-hmm. She was cussing down to me, and then she chucked me at my father's feet and says, "Here's your ungrateful fucking daughter. Your piece." She cussed, and I was just laying there in the dirt. And
no, that's a message.
And I remember it,
Okay.
and that's just one of them. And then my father, he when I asked him to help teach me to drive, because they were teaching my 2 younger stepbrothers how to drive,
Mm-hmm.
and I asked, when are you going to teach me? When I was, I was like 13, 14, maybe not 14, maybe like 16. I thought it was younger, but I think it's 16. But he said, "You're like a clumsy puppy dog. You're not smart." And my stepmom would always tell me that there's something wrong with my brain. Like, everybody else is this connected and yours is off. So I was constantly put down and talked down to. I was not even human to them. And they made it adamantly clear that they wanted to suppress me. If I even stood up or anything, they would insult me so bad. I mean, they'd take the scruff of my neck and shove my face like a dog that pissed in a house or something. If I had a dish in a wrong place, that's how bad it was. And it was every day. And not only that, I was being bullied every day at school by my peers, and then I would come home and I would be bullied every day. It seemed like almost every day. Maybe that's an exaggeration, but pretty much every day by my parents and my brothers, because I used to wet the bed, and they would circle around me singing, "I'm a little pea pot short inside," and the adults would do this too. And when I told my counselor, I was lucky enough to have one for a brief moment. And they ran her out of town because she put me in foster home when I was 12. She took me out, and they abused their power, my stepmother and my father, because they know everybody in that town. Mm-hmm. They had so much power, and they ran her out of town, and she was my only safe haven. And but anyway, when I told my counselor that I did chores. I stayed up. Like, my stepmother and my father wouldn't let me go to sleep until my chores were done. Like, it'd be like 11 o'clock at night, and I'm a little kid, and I had schoolwork, and I had to take care of my brothers and stuff like that. But anyway, they would wake me up and not my 2 older brothers, because I was the responsible one, and my 2 older brothers were doing drugs and partying. But anyway, when I told her that, she told my parents that maybe I have too much workload on me, and after that,
Your father?
My father beat the crap out of me first, and almost killed me. And
so you had no voice.
And afterwards, for like weeks, my stepbrothers and my brother and my stepmom would call me Cinderella, Cinderella.
I was just thinking about the.
So they would make fun of me because I would scrub the walls of the bathroom with no gloves, and I had bleach burns down my hands, and I almost passed out from like the fumes and stuff.
So this is one of the worst Panel 1 injuries that I've heard.
I was worthless. I wasn't even hurt. I was
okay. So at any time, and so this is how children think. Most children think that it's all their fault. No one questions their parent to say,
gods.
I don't hear in my practice too many children who say, "Mom, Dad, you have horrible parenting skills. Get some help. There's something wrong with you." They don't do that. On the contrary, they ingrain into their core belief that they are, and go ahead, what you ingrained as a result of this treatment. So,
I think like if I make a mistake on it, it can be simple and it's stupid. Like can be as simple as not like stitching a stitch right on a sewing project. Mm-hmm. I mean, it can be that simple, and then all of a sudden I change. I snap into this little tiny kid, and I literally hear it in my voice, in my head first. See, you are stupid. You fuck up everything you touch.
Exactly. So can you hear the psychovirus? That's your psychovirus.
It's inside my. It's almost like that movie Invaders. The aliens come in and they invade the people's bodies, the body snatchers or whatever, and that's what I feel like. It's almost like it takes me over, and I have no control over it. And this little kid that's hurt by these people become the parents that hurts them, and I can do it to myself.
So now the work is, and we've been working on it.
Matter of fact, that reminds me, like remember I told you my dad almost killed me because he didn't want me. That's what he was screaming at me. He says, if you ever can tell anybody, he was choking me, and the only thing that saved me was somebody walked in. But right after that, as a child, I have all these pills. I was so heavily medicated, which is, I mean, I was like a guinea pig.
So this is what Heather had to
and I was
drooling.
I took those medications, and I said, "You want to fucking kill me? I'll do it for you. I'll kill myself for you." And I OD'd when I was 16 years old.
That's how deadly it is. Okay, so right?
So I do it for him, you know.
Yeah, do it right.
I'll do it for you. Yeah. I'll beat myself up verbally and tell me, you know, because I know how worthless I am. I know how replaceable I am.
Okay,
my parents already replaced me, and my stepmother would hug her 2 children in front of me and look and like grin.
I just want to interrupt you, not to interrupt you, but I want to just make the point of, do you see how deep that goes? Do you see how you identify with it? You know, what we're working on is to help you identify it and say, crazy, misinformation, sick parenting, system gone wrong. It's just so deep, and because it comes from the source of parenting, and again, there are sources, there are gods. It gets in there so deeply.
It happens as adults too. You know, adults do the same thing, so it reinforces what the parents taught me as a child. So I mean, in the relationships that I've been in.
So let's just identify, right? So the audience could really be clear. So what are these core beliefs? I'm worthless.
Oh, definitely worthless. Replaceable.
Go on.
Not, you know, stupid, ugly.
Stupid, ugly.
Yeah.
Okay. And then with the example of the stitching, one stitch off becomes your proof that you're incapable.
Right.
Your proof that you're stupid. So I just want everybody listening to see how this horrific system gone wrong works, and how deeply and powerfully it ingrains into the fiber of a person's being, to the point where you're so useless, then you manifest a life of homelessness.
Yeah.
And anybody who wants to see the episode with Heather on effects of homelessness, please do tune into that one, and then you'll understand where this kind of misinformation, what this core belief really did to her life, to your life.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate your sharing this, because it's just unbelievable how it ingrains. And there's a question I'm going to answer, a question from the chat room.
Oh, cool!
All right,
awesome.
so let me see if I can address this before I move on to Shrink That Tune. What would be a responsible way to point people toward this kind of self-understanding who are not family members without risking offense or harm? Wow, that's a great question. What would be a responsible way to point people toward this kind of understanding who are not family members without risking offense or harm? You mean, I think what the person is saying is that they'll be attacked for telling the truth.
Yeah, pointing out someone's, that if somebody else has that kind of behavior, and you're saying, hey, you know, you really shouldn't smack your kid around like that, you know, or
right.
something
You
like
don't
that.
tell people what they should or shouldn't do. Number one, you can't, because that's already going to shove them in panel number 5, defense mechanisms. First of all, I think that people have to want to be understanding before. You know, the old adage, you can't give advice to somebody who doesn't ask for it.
Right.
If someone is being offensive and harmful, my best advice is keep away from them.
Step away.
And if you see other people being harmed by them, what you do is you stand beside that person as an enlightened witness. And maybe a responsible way would be to psychoeducate them and bring them to material like the mind map that's going to clarify how it's a system gone wrong. And remember, what you don't want to do is exactly what was done to you. Blame, shame, criticize, right? You don't want to do that to a person, even if they're being critical. You want to lead them to the pathway of truth and information. And it's really hard to tell somebody who's misinformed and engaged in demeaning, devaluing, and destroying to stop it, because they're on a path to destruction.
What I do, like with my friends, like I have a couple of people that I like notice they're kind of destructive and negative and blah blah blah, or narcissists or whatever it suits any situation. I kind of like send them a link to like a video, a self-help video, kind of nonchalantly, laying it, I'll just place this here, and so they could read it on their own, sort of subconsciously talk about it sometimes, just subconsciously talk about it. So, maybe they'll start thinking about it, and stuff like that.
I think
not directly, but indirectly confront the problem.
Okay.
That's what I do with my friends.
Okay. No, I appreciate that, because you can't force, you can't
lead a horse. You can't make a horse. You can lead a horse to water, but can't make him drink.
And I think inspiration versus forcing them and telling them what's wrong with them.
Oh, love. Yeah, lots of love. Just don't love on them, and just continue to don't judge them, and just
inform.
Just inform them, and just don't judge them. I have a lot of different kind of friends that have a lot of problems, but I still love them, because everybody needs love. It's all about information, and that's what you're doing. You're bringing information.
Unconditional love, the most powerful force in the universe. So we're going to go to...
Yeah, I didn't know what that was until you.
Yeah?
You're awesome.
Well, remember, you are, and we're still fighting the demon of these psychoviruses that are ruling
on
you.
a daily
so
basis.
We're going to continue to dismantle.
Sometimes I have to convince myself to get up, to survive, to want to be around
that's
people.
That's how oppressive they are.
Yes, exactly.
So I'm going to move to shrink that tune, okay? And actually, Heather picked the song, and it's
I know we did
for the show.
Please.
So the tune is called "Dumb" by Nirvana. And I'm going to read you the words, and I'm going to shrink it through the point of view of the mind map and the theme of negative core beliefs and how harmful they are. I'm not like them, but I can pretend. So this is the false self emerging, the pretend self. The sun is gone, meaning that when we're beaten down, our light goes out, but the person is acknowledging, I have a light. So we all have a light. Even when we're in our darkness, there's still the light behind the darkness. The day is done, but I'm having fun. I think I'm dumb. So look at the contrast. I'm having fun, and I think I'm done. So I think this person is just trying to get out of the darkness, but then goes underwater. Or maybe just happy. I think I'm just happy. My heart is broke, but I have some glue. So glue, mending the heart, but also glue sniffing as filling, high. Which you pointed out to me. Thank you. Filling the hole in the soul. Help me inhale and mend it with you, meaning fill the hole in the soul with another person, which we often do. We'll float around and hang out on clouds, then we'll come down, in other words, get high, and have a hangover. Skin the sun, fall asleep, wish away, the soul is cheap. So in this case, there seems to be so much disconnection that maybe the soul isn't even engaged, shining, right? Not there.
Well, they probably don't even want to bring up the soul, because it would be too personal and too emotional to bring life to that soul.
Suppress it.
Suppress the soul, of course. Yeah, shove it aside. Kick it to the curb.
take it down into the darkness. Lesson learned. I guess not quite. Wish me luck, soothe the burn, wake me up. I'm not like them. So they're trying to say, I'm not like them, but it seems like something dark got in there because the sun is gone. However, the recognition that there really is some kind of light that we could all access. But I'm having fun. And at the end of the day, the song is called Dumb. I think I'm dumb. So whatever this person struggles with, that psychovirus is in there. And there it is. I'm dumb. So thank you very much. Thank you, Heather, for joining. me and the audience. And I hope that you're learning and connecting the dots. And I will see you next week. Good night, everybody.